Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. All right, guys, I am here today with Kolton Lucas. I started following Kolton on Instagram. Kolton reached out to me a few times. We've talked. He is a sharp young man. I've come to enjoy Kolton's content, and he's very knowledgeable. How you doing, Kolton?
Good, man. Good. Happy to be here, honestly. Likewise, I've followed you, Paul, forever. I've watched your YouTube videos. I literally found your YouTube channel probably half a year ago, and since then I've just like binge watched everything. It's just been like my thing when I'm on cardio. When I was on prep just a few weeks ago, like that was what I would do in my cardio. Let's just be like, let's look at Paul.
Yeah, so you were with me earlier on in the journey. I've only been on YouTube for about a year.
Right.
It's been pretty fucking wild, man. How I just cracked 10,000 subscribers today, and that was this time last year. I think I had like 300.
That's crazy. What do you think
Yeah,
it is? I'm always curious because like you never really can find that, especially when you talk about subjects that are more algorithm unfriendly, like PEDs. What do you think it is about your channel that like pulls that? I just like it's so weird because some channels can talk about it and they just completely hit the gutter. Other channels like yours seem to thrive pretty well.
I don't know. I mean, I had some ideas in my head when I started it. To be honest with you, everything I saw on YouTube I didn't like.
Yeah.
There were only a few channels I like Vigorous Steve. I really
Right.
enjoyed his content and the Think Big bodybuilding guys. But outside of that, I just didn't really see many people pumping out the content that I wanted to hear. So I thought to myself, I'm like, well, shit, I'm just going to make the shit that I would like to hear and
Right.
the stuff that I want to listen to and be authentic about it, not try to be somebody I'm not, and just be fun with it, and and put good information. I like learning. I like talking about or hearing things that help me learn.
Yeah.
And part of the process with making these videos is I'll actually research stuff and then put a video up about it.
Right.
I haven't as much time to do that lately. I've just been cranking videos out because I've been so busy with coaching. I'll crank videos out without putting as much research into it. But some of the earlier videos were sort of deep dive videos. That's why Vigorous Steve reached out to me originally, because of that stuff. But I guess people like the shit. I notice when I'll get a subscriber, like just like you said, then I'll notice that they go through and binge watch all my
Yeah.
videos. They'll catch one video and they go back through and watch all the old videos. But I started off with making PED profiles. I just sort of took the stuff that was in the anabolic reference guide and just kind of went through it and made videos about the different PEDs. It's funny how everybody's a critic. I get people reaching out to me and saying this is wrong or that's wrong. I'm like, well, dude, it's in the fucking anabolic reference guide.
Right.
So if it's literally what physicians use. So if it's wrong in there too. But I don't know. I try to put it in a way that people break it down in a way that's simple to understand, that's fun, and make people laugh a little bit, and just let the chips fall where they may. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
really the answer.
It's really interesting. I think what you're really good at is like authenticity, which is hard to create on camera. I think it takes repetition, of course, but like, and I think transparency is a huge thing. That's one thing I try to do massively is like be as transparent as possible. The doses I'm using, the exact diet I'm following, the exact protocol I'm at the moment doing, and trying to explain why I'm doing these things and if I agree with them or if I don't, kind of thing. And I try to be transparent and coming across genuine. And some of those videos do really well. But I think you have like this, I don't know, it's something else. Maybe it's your age, like fine wine. I don't
My big fat head. I don't know.
know.
I'll get the comments all the time. People will be like, "Did GH make that head big?" And I'm like, "Nah, man. It was like this in high school."
Dude, it
Or,
definitely made mine bigger though. I'm not
oh
gonna,
no, I've got the GH horns now.
yeah, it's
I
crazy.
and my nose definitely got bigger. It's funny, my hands got bigger too, because I've only been running GH for about 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. It's funny because I have an older Apple Watch, and I bought it. It's like 4 years old, and I bought it, and I bought a custom band for it. And I hadn't worn my Apple Watch in a while, and I went to put it on the other day, and I couldn't get the band over my hand.
You don't know. It's like funny because it's like, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Because I'm kind of like, maybe that's a good thing, I'm growing, but like at the same time, it's like shit. Myself, I have like a whole bunch. I'm a big hat guy. I love hats. Half my fucking hats don't fit anymore, man. It's kind of weird. Like, and they used to fit me perfectly, and now they like don't even go around my head unless I uncap it from the back, which is just like obscene to me to think that my head's grown that much like girth.
Yeah, I can't even I like just regular hats just don't even fit me, man.
Yeah.
But I had a giant head before. It's even more giant now. But yeah, definitely, I noticed the GH made my hands grow. My nose got bigger. I was looking at some pictures from a few years ago, and there's definitely a difference.
Yeah.
And I don't run crazy high doses. I mean, 5-6 units, something like that.
The most I ever did was 5 units, and that's like, just to be honest, like just because the shit's like, it's a lot of money, right? When you start doing 5 units a day, and
Yeah.
that's a bottle every 2 days essentially. And so, and I'm only 25, so like I just started coming into money with the business and stuff. So now I'm starting to explore other things. But even with 5 IUs, like my fingers grow. Like I have an Aura ring, for example, and I'm getting to the point now after my show that it's becoming like I can't get it off right now, for example. Like by the end of the day, like that bitch is not coming off. So it's weird, like the appendages growing and different aspects of your body changing. I think my face is probably one of the weirdest things though, especially I competed naturally before and won my pro card naturally. And when I was like all the way shredded down naturally, my face was just like, it didn't look anything like it does now. When I look at pictures of myself, I'm like, who is that guy? And now it's whether that's like oxidative stress or just the androgens, speeding up, whatever that might be, right? It just changes the way you look drastically. Some guys are worse, some guys are better, but that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, no, I definitely have noticed a change. I played around with, of course, I like to experiment with doses. I'm probably stupid for doing so, but I have pushed up to 10 units before just to see. And at 10, I laugh when guys talk about pro bodybuilders taking 20 units of pharma
Yeah.
grade
Like
GH. I'm like purely
who,
the math of it doesn't add up.
right?
Who can afford that?
You'd be spending thousands of dollars. You'd be spending more than Liver King did a month, and 16,000 a month for me is just, I can't even fathom. Like that's
Yeah, I don't know where people think pro body, even if the guys at the top of the sport are making
right.
that kind of money.
You big
To spend a
Rami's
quarter million
400.
dollars a year on GH, it's not
Right.
happening.
There's not, like, dude, that's 8 mortgages. Like you need to redistribute your funds if that really is the case. But
Yeah, I laugh at it. Well, people are like, "Well, I got a sponsor." I'm like, "Who the fuck? What sponsor is giving somebody 20
yeah,
units of
dude, right,
GH a day? No, nobody's doing that, man.
right.
I don't know. People just
And
like to
then
make.
like I love that too, because they're like, oh, they're getting sponsored by people or they're in a private community. It's like, how is that community or person or lab making anything off of you? Like he's not, Big Rami's not going out saying, this is the guy I use, everyone else use him. He doesn't have a discount code.
No,
It's kind of just weird to me.
yeah, people like to. Well, I think what it is people like to rationalize their own shortcomings by
Exactly.
fantasizing about what
Yeah.
some pro bodybuilders doing. Honestly, a lot of the guys, when you actually talk to them, they don't take as much as you think they do. Some of them take a lot. I had a video up on my channel, I don't know, it was a week or two ago of it was passed
I
on
saw
to
that.
me. That was a real cycle from a real coach that coaches pros. I verified it through multiple sources, and it was the real deal, and it topped out at 5 grams.
Yeah. It's a
Oh,
lot of
I
shit
mean,
too.
there's some people doing some stupid shit, but there's also some people that barely take anything.
Yeah.
I know legitimately barely take anything. Like I heard, from a pretty reliable source that Dexter Jackson only ran gear half the year. He was
Yeah.
completely off half the year.
Yeah, I believe that. I really do. And I think, people like Andrew Jack, I was listening to a podcast, like Dennis James podcast, and his coach was talking about how he doesn't want to take growth hormone yet. The dude's on the Olympia stage, it's crazy. So some people I think have the genetic proclivity just to excel, whether that's like androgen receptor density or what have you, myostatin insufficiencies. I don't know, but it's crazy. I train with Keon Pearson, and all those guys kind of in the Dallas area, and it's like, dude, when they talk about stuff, I'm like, I'm blown away, because there's a kid who's 180 pounds using more than Keon Pearson at 250. It's like, what's the discrepancy here? It's crazy.
I mean, you certainly see it. There's a guy I know, or I have helped out with his nutrition, and this he's a younger guy, but I saw him put on almost 50 pounds in a year just from running 250 milligrams of test. You
Yeah.
know, and then like you said, and then I'll have somebody reach out to me that's taking grams, and they don't even look like they lift weights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's certainly a genetic component to it as well.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I think a lot of people don't give themselves the time. They don't give themselves the benefit of the doubt. So they'll start higher versus lower, I think, these days.
Yeah.
I was opposite. So I'm kind of getting into the experimental range now because I'm kind of at my liberty to do so. But when I started, I was honestly too afraid to go over like a 300 milligram total dose of androgens a week. So like my first NPC show, I remember specifically, it was 200 milligrams of testosterone a week and 100 milligrams of Masteron propionate spread throughout the week. And that was like my entire cycle with 20 micrograms of clenbuterol. And I thought that was like, that was like a lot. And I was like, whoa. And then I kind of elevated into like 400 milligrams. And I was like, okay, this is my off season. Like we're going to push weight up. And then I started to realize like, okay, my body does not respond super well at 300 milligrams. Like I don't get too much for my effort. And then now I'm like kind of in that experimental mode where, I'm up almost to 230-ish pounds right now. And I was in my last off season 255, and then I was still using like 600 milligrams a week, 700 milligrams a week. Now I'm going to see at this point in time, like how much testosterone can I efficaciously use without overburdening myself with side effects, and going up to those higher numbers, but slowly, and seeing what happens, and trying to be analytical with each time I increase the dose. So right now we're sitting at like 800 milligrams of testosterone a week, and then 200 milligrams of nandrolone and 200 milligrams of Masteron. And that's kind of where we're sitting for right now. And
Yeah.
I feel amazing, dude. Like I've never ran testosterone this high, and I feel like euphoria. And when I'm in the gym, like it's sexual. Like it feels great. You know what I mean? So it's been good.
There is a saturation point that you reach where I think you kind of hit the sweet spot, and you sort of have to figure that out.
Yeah.
I am an advocate of using the minimum effective dose. Why not? Why go out of the gate and use more than you need?
Right.
People don't consider there is sort of a limit on how much muscle protein synthesis you can generate in a given period of time anyway. So
Right.
taking more is not going to be a linear, twice
Right.
as much is not going to yield twice the results.
Right. Especially because taking more androgens and we just know from clinical literature, it's very clear that having a super physiological amount of androgens in the system massively increases inflammation. And you can look at this through IL-6 or C-reactive protein and see this very clearly. What we also know is when inflammation is high through C-reactive protein measurements, muscle protein synthetic rates drop drastically. So you hear about like dudes who are at the end of a very, very long cycle and progress starts to rapidly drop off or completely just stop, maybe even go in reverse. And that's probably why, is the system's overburdened and inflamed. And so like my big thing is, if I'm doing blood work, which I do very regularly with a great clinic, so I get to kind of go in there whenever I need, and I'm seeing these markers either stay the same or increase or go some certain kind of trend, then I know like what I'm doing is okay, we're not going in the wrong direction. And as long as I'm monitoring that every 10 weeks or so, then I can make that decision. I'm big on like, hey, let's use blood work as the predictor to determine whether we should be on or off, and then not give just generic timelines when you can, right? Some clients can't, obviously. It's a luxury. The sport in itself is a luxury, but using blood work to determine, hey, my cycle is going to be maybe 20 weeks long at this point, or my cycle could probably go to 30 weeks long realistically. Like my CRP numbers are good, my lipoproteins are down, I'm perfectly fine as far as cholesterol goes. Those are the things I'm typically looking at.
Yeah, I had the same situation recently. I had planned on doing a 20-week push in the off season, which is usually what I do, but I had I had the flu, and then I had fucking pneumonia right after.
I remember that, dude, back to back.
Yeah, and I just couldn't get back on track after it, man. I just wasn't making any progress. And so I went in and had my blood work done, and my C-reactive protein was high. It wasn't ridiculous, but it was higher than what I would like it to be. It was over the over the top end of the normal range. So I'm like, there's no point in continuing to push right now. I need to reduce toxic load and back off. And I'm just down on what I consider TRT at this point for me, which is 250 milligrams of
Yeah.
testosterone a week.
Bodybuilders TRT.
Bodybuilder TRT. But and it's funny because after I'm in my third week of the well, I guess I'm headed into the fourth week of the cruise, but after a few weeks of pulling my androgen load down, I actually feel better, and I'm making progress in the gym. People don't believe it when you tell them that.
Right.
I feel like I put on some size.
Right.
So it's probably, and you're right, it's probably the inflammation coming down, and your body is healthier from really the most toxic thing that it's funny, everybody's scared of insulin and HGH and things like that, but
like the safest.
But the most toxic thing that we use are synthetic androgens. When you take a step back and think about it.
Yeah, it's detrimental neurologically, cardiovascularly. It's like the one thing that affects all body systems. You could argue that insulin and growth hormone are actually probably like prophylactic, like they're beneficial. Correct. And should actually help you maintain health more than anything. And it's really, really, and I try to like push this to all my clients when I'm talking to them, especially like younger guys, because that's typically the audience that finds me out and seeks me, is like, hey, we need to be objective and not emotional when we're making these decisions. So like, you might feel great, but what if we do blood work and things don't look great? And we have to always be objective. We cannot be like subjective and say, well, I feel fine. I think I'm making progress. Like, what do the numbers say? How's your logbook? Like, what are these things doing? And that's like, it's so important because it's really easy to get, especially when you're like in a prep, it's really easy to get emotional and like use that emotionality to drive your decision-making with PEDs. And that's just never a good option.
Yeah. I made some stupid decisions in prep.
Yeah, me too.
That's why you need a coach, somebody to be objective. I literally last year, man, I was 1 week out from my show and I was thinking about pulling out. My coach was like, dude, you look great.
Shut the fuck up.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I don't know. And then, I went out and won both of my classes. So
yeah, there you go.
And qualified for nationals. So
by the way, what's the plans for that? Are you,
I was going to do Masters Nationals in July, but my daughter is in travel volleyball, so there's no way I can do contest prep and go to volleyball tournaments every other weekend.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm going to see. I hurt my pec recently, so I can't really train that hard right now. So I'm going to probably do a late fall, winter show. We'll see. Health willing, at my age, health, you have to monitor your health. So it's I'm almost 50, man. So this is a luxury at this point in my life.
And dude, I think you're doing pretty well. It's crazy to me. Most guys are shrinking, not growing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit deceiving because I was pretty big in my 20s and then I didn't train for 12 years. So really, I guess maybe I saved myself some miles by not training and not being on anything for a long period of time. And then it was kind of like starting over from scratch again. But I had already been big before, but I think this is the best condition I've ever been in at this weight right now. I'm about 275 right now.
Yeah. My last show I was at, how you always think and this is like me still being a young guy trying to learn the whole sphere of what we're in, but you always think you're bigger than you are. So I was like 255 pounds. I was like, man, I'm fucking huge. I'm going to get ready for my show. My weight cap's 233. I'm going to be right up against it. I got ready for my show. Granted, I've never seen anyone as lean as I was in person before. Like my glutes had such deep lines in it that you could like feel my ass, and it would just be like, you could like put fingers in each of the ripples within my glutes. It was ridiculous.
I saw the pictures. You were ripped.
Yeah, it was nuts. And it was a whole other topic. It didn't feel like it was hard work either, which was weird for me. And it was a psychological twist, which is why I'd bring up the emotional thing. But yeah, I was like 206 on stage and I was like, fuck, man, it's crazy. And granted, I'm 6'2". So I definitely sacrificed a lot of size. That was before stepping on stage too. So before even carbing up. So it's probably not legitimately what it was. I was probably more around 212 maybe. But I still have now, it's like I think my body just really needed the drop in weight and that kind of push, because now I'm 233 as of this morning. I still have shredded glutes and I'm still extremely lean for where we're at, and man, I feel fucking great. And so the plan is like I want to actually do this time, because last time I pushed up to 255, it was like, it wasn't the cleanest look ever in the world. So
Yeah, I saw your pictures recently. I mean, you look like you're almost stage ready right now. You a
yeah,
couple weeks, you probably be ready.
dude, it's nuts. I'm like I need to figure out balance. Balance is one thing I suck at. So I'm like very like die hard, just like full in. I'm either all the way in or I'm not in at all. Like I've not reached that out part yet. I'm still like right after my show, I had an omelet in the morning, and then I just went back on plan. And so like, and ever since then I've not come off. So it's just been training, eating, just like the same thing day in, day out. And my body composition has just relatively stayed the same, and weight's just massively improved. So I think part of that is psychological too. You get that motivation, that like drive right after a
Hmm.
show. You're like, I cannot be this fucking guy again. Like I have to improve. And so I'm like more aggressive, more calculated with my approach. But it is, I think you always learn lessons when you go through a prep and then entering an off season. Like you have these things you kind of take with you, tools for the next season. And so I have a lot of those this time, and I think they're just being put to good use.
Yeah, after getting super shredded like that, I see it all the time with clients I work with that if you're smart about your diet afterwards, you can put a ton of weight on and maintain body composition.
You're a
It's
great example, man. Like you're
yeah.
you're walking that line right now.
Yeah, I was 185 in my 2021. You and I are the same height. I'm just a tad under 6'2". So I was 185 at my show in 2021, and I was 230. I weighed in at 237 last year.
That's fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
that was pretty wild. Justin said it was. He said that it was probably the. He said he only had one other person he saw put on that much in an
Yeah.
off season before.
It was probably a lot of muscle memory in part two, but still it's because you said you'd used too much T3 that previous prep, right?
Yeah, I went a little crazy with the T3. I probably should have been more like 210, 212,
Yeah.
something like that on stage. I looked pretty good, and we made a decision together to push the T3 a little harder. And then I never really messed with T3 before. I have a pretty fast metabolism as is. I have to eat until I feel sick
Yeah,
to
me
gain
too.
weight. So I think it was not a good mix with my already high metabolism. My metabolism spun out of control. He was literally having me do unlimited high days at the end, and I
Really?
was still losing weight. He's like, just go
Jesus.
eat as much as you can eat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm absolutely the same way where I like, dude, I will suck down so quick. I literally went out for pancakes the other day, and I just like I ate the pancakes, I ate an omelet, and then I had all my meals on top of that. And I lost 2 pounds. I was like, dude, what the hell's going on? Like, this is crazy. And in the same concept, like in prep, I never used T3 until the last couple, I think 8, 9 weeks. You'd have to go on my YouTube channel to find out, but like when we did, it was like 7.5 micrograms, or it was 6.25 micrograms. So it was a quarter pill of a T3 tab. And then 2 weeks later, it was 12.5. And then it never went past 12.5. And that was like, I was like, there's no way this is enough, because it's going to suppress my natural thyroid production. And then I'm going to be under a physiological amount. But no, man, like I shredded, like it sped things up really fast and almost too fast. We had to like do that kind of thing at the last couple weeks. We're like getting burgers every night and trying to like fill back out, and it just wasn't working.
I mean, when you think about it, if you're taking Tren, which most people are at the end, Tren is going to up T4 conversion anyway.
Right.
So I don't know. If anything, to me, thinking back on it, it probably would make more sense not to use T3 and put in T4.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. And I see a lot of guys doing that now. And it's honestly like the problem with too much T3 is it's super, like there's a lot of thyroid receptors around the heart, right? So their heart rate's going to speed up, your heart morphology is going to change. I think a
Yeah.
lot of the driving forces behind cardiac health is honestly the fat burners we use, like clenbuterol
Yeah.
and T3, and then you have caffeine, ephedrine, and all these different things that modulate heart rate variability, and then obviously implicate its growth mechanisms through your heart too. And I just think like you can get like you said, Tren massively modulates thyroid axis. It also acts as a slight uncoupler, which is like a very interesting factor. And then you have things like T4, which can just supply you with more thyroid hormone without any kind of exogenous dependence, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it does seem like Tren is a thermic uncoupler as well. At least anecdotally, it does. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never been able to find a study that shows it, but it does seem to be that it
Pretty sure it
has.
was in cattle. I'm not 100% on that. I
It
try to
was.
stick around with this stuff, but
It does seem like it has impact on mitochondrial function. So
yeah,
similar to like what something like DMP would.
right. Obviously at a much lesser rate, but it could explain the partially the sweats at night, but I think a lot of that too is like it's capacity to alter your adrenergic states and whatnot too in the brain, and that also can alter metabolism. And it, like interestingly enough, it has a similar effect as like a yohimbine. How yohimbine is a alpha 2 agonist, and can inhibit uh, adrenaline's action on adipocytes, and then thus help them, essentially inhibiting that action is going to help them release more fatty acids. And so that might be another action too, where it's causing that like excessive thermogenesis and heat regulation and whatnot too. I've really never used Tren much. I can't say I have a ton of experience. I've had it in my cycles twice, but whenever I've done it, it's been like literally 25 to 50 milligrams a week at most.
Yeah, I backed off this year. I've always run it at 100 milligrams every other day, but I backed off this year and did
Did you notice
50.
any?
I thought I got better results with 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was at 100 or more, even 100, I've gone up to as much as I've done up to as much as 100 a day before.
Wow.
And they just like you get to a point where it just makes you sick. Like I don't think you get any additional there. It has a very low threshold for what I would consider to be an effective dose, and once you pass that, it's just the side
Yeah.
effects just pile up.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like it, to get the glucocorticoid suppression and the thermic effects of it and the fat burning effects of it. It doesn't seem like you need that high of a dose. It seems like it's pretty effective at a low dose. And the problem I've run into when you run higher doses is it's just I can't fucking sleep.
Yeah.
It stimulates the CNS so much you just can't sleep, and if you can't sleep, you can't recover, and
Right.
that can't be a good thing for your physique.
Right. Yeah. That's the one thing I was like, man, I'm not getting any of those side effects. Like you hear so many people talk about transomnia and like aggression and all these different things. Like I didn't experience any of that. It was actually kind of like I was like extremely productive in business. That's when I like
Yeah,
closed my first like $50,000 month, and I was like, holy shit, like this is crazy. And I was just like riding that high in prep. I was like, this is crazy. I was sleeping fine. And the worst side effect I noticed was like oddly visual things. Like I think this is maybe like an adrenergic response, but like in the peripheral of my vision, I thought like I'd see like someone walk through or something, and I'd like be like, whoa, like what was that? It was like a weird kind of thing I
that's
noticed more
weird. I've never heard
frequently.
of that one
Yeah.
before.
It was super weird, and that it stopped since the cessation of it. So I think it maybe might have been correlated to like a stress response. And I was in the military for 8 years, so maybe there's like some correlation with the training I had and then the response to that. But it was super weird, and it kept happening. I was like, this is odd, and then I kind of correlated with, well, it kind of happens. It started as soon as I started Tren, and then it went away as soon as I stopped. It might be like this weird thing, but
It's funny you mentioned the productivity when I'm on prep. I'm a
good.
work machine, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. The best nootropic is a caloric deficit and some cardio. Like it's nuts.
A little bit of fat burners in there too,
Yes.
some stimulants.
Yeah.
I'm like working 18-hour days.
Yes. Yeah, you're waking up at like 3 a.m. just hammering away emails and stuff. It's great.
I remember and I'm kind of a slob, but I remember my last prep, I was out organizing everything in my garage, putting them in bins and stuff. And I was like, after my show, my girlfriend was like, "Are you manic?"
You just completely changed.
I'm like, I don't, maybe.
Yeah. I would same thing, man. I would do like I never fold my laundry. Like I'll because I'm just a single dude, I live alone. So I just like leave the shit in the dryer. And on prep, I was like, I'd fold it. I'd actually get like a fabric softener and a fabric scenting thing. And I'd like organize my closet, color coded, like just do the most ridiculous shit. I'm like, why am I even doing this right now? Like,
So I'm not the only one, man. I was
no,
organizing everything.
it's crazy, man. It was so weird. It was like, what is going on with my life? It was just weird as hell.
Yeah, definitely my productivity went through the roof. I mean, I'm a very productive person. I'm very organized and I work hard,
Yeah.
but it was like a compulsive thing at that point.
Yeah.
So it definitely has some sort of effect on your brain chemistry or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, honestly, the off season is the toughest part for me. Not I love eating. Like eating's great. It's just I so I own, like, for everyone listeners, I own my own coaching company. So I do coach individually, but then I own more of a company aligned with helping people at a holistic level. So not necessarily bodybuilders. I coach bodybuilders as like a personal interest, but more of what my company's looking to do is help, like, maybe, women with SIBO or men with like a low testosterone trying to improve without TRT, or maybe they do need TRT, so they go through our clinic. And so that company started to, like, rapidly excel, and then I stopped prep, and it's like now you start kind of sleeping in a little bit later, and you start, like, sending as many thoughtful emails, and it's like you start to dwindle that productivity, and it's not like, it's almost out of your control in a weird way. It's fuck, like, I have to be producing at this high level like I was in prep, because I really started the business just before prep, and then it accelerated so quick, and now I have to, like, keep up with that demand.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way with me when I'm in the off season. I just want to take naps.
Yeah, dude. It's like I'll come back from the gym. It's like I need a nap right now, and I got a call to go on. I'm like, holy crap! Like, what am I gonna do? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Well, I mean, it's all the food.
Yeah,
For me, it's a shit ton of carbs and I insulin.
yeah. Insulin does it, man. That shit will put me to sleep really quick.
Yeah, me too, man. I get tired as fuck when I'm pounding the carbs and hammering the insulin.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's the carb coma. I always love it when I hear people talk about on Thanksgiving that
yeah. Turkey
tryptophan.
bacon farm.
I'm like, dude, it's not fucking tryptophan. If it was tryptophan, bodybuilders would be asleep all day
You're
long.
right.
It's the goddamn carbs, and then you get a huge insulin spike after eating the pumpkin pie and
Mhm.
a pound of mashed potatoes, and
Yep.
it's not. I mean, most
You're
people aren't eating enough turkey to get a
exactly.
tryptophan coma.
Yeah, like turkey's probably like a sixth of their plate. Let's be honest.
Yeah. That's not what's putting you to
Yeah,
sleep. It's the carb coma.
yeah. What are your calories at right now? Like, what are you doing roughly?
We let's see. I don't really calorie count. I go by this is terrible. The way Justin does his diets, it's macro based.
Yeah.
So I can tell you all my carbs on my
You
medium
guys,
days.
you guys don't do trace, like, macros, right? Or do you?
No, he doesn't do trace
Okay.
macros. When you hear him make his argument for it, it makes a lot of sense. He has a I think he's almost finished his PhD in physics, and he has an undergrad in mathematics. So he's a mathematics guy, but he talks about, like, tracking the trace nutrients, especially in protein sources. Like, you think about, like, the trace fats that are, or the fats that are in protein. You can't quantify the unquantifiable, because it's not like they're making steak in the lab.
Right. Right.
So and just like people, different cows have different body fats. So his argument is, get the leanest cut of meat that you could possibly get, and then we'll just zero it out, and it's all relative at that point, and then we count the added fats.
Right. That's how I do
So
it too. So
yeah, and we don't count any of, like, trace proteins from carbohydrates as well either, so it doesn't really matter. It's all relative.
yeah.
You know that too. You lower the number
Yeah.
of the macros, you're gonna lose weight. It blows people's heads open when I try to explain it to them, but there's no point in tracking those trace macros. It's just
Right.
pointless.
Yeah. As
So
long as you're consistent, any change is going to be noticeable.
yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with food measurement. Like, people were asking me, should you weigh it cooked, or should you weigh it dry, or whatever, or I mean, just be consistent with it. If you're
Yeah.
consistent with it, it's all relative.
Right. Who the fuck do you weigh your shit raw?
No.
Yeah. Who does that? I can't. I saw Ian Valier do that. I'm like, who has time to eat 6 meals a day and then weigh everything out raw? And then, like, that's ridiculous to me. I can never do that.
No, I'll cook like 10 pounds of chicken at a time, and then
Right.
I
Yeah.
weigh it out as I eat it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Same thing with the rice. I put a big batch into the rice cooker. The only thing I measure raw is if, like, I'm cooking a one time meal. So
Hmm.
something that would be, something you're adding a bunch of water to. So, for example,
Yeah.
oats.
Yeah.
If I were
Right.
going to cook some oats, I'll measure those out raw. because they're hard to measure cooked, right?
Right. Right.
And who cooks up 6 meals worth of oats at one time,
Yeah. That's
right?
weird.
But most of it's just meat and rice. Yeah. So right now I'm at my medium days. We're doing 600 grams of carbs. High days are, I think, 1,200 right now on high days, and then my low days are 300 grams of carbs.
All right.
I do 2 high days a week right now on my cruise. I was up at 3 for a while, and the high days have a cheat meal at the end of the high day.
So you do
Um,
1,200 and then the cheat meal.
uh, no, well, if I were to skip the cheat meal, it'd be 1,200.
Okay.
So it's more like 1,000.
That's still intense, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Do you feel
Yeah.
like water retentive after those days, or do you wake up the next day like with any distress to the GI or anything like that?
When the high carb days, you go as close to zero fat as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to help the GI. And then also half those carbs come from sugary sources.
Oh, okay.
So there's, so if you think about it, it's roughly 50 grams of carbs in a cup of rice. Roughly, it's like
Yeah.
46 or something. But if you think about it, if I'm eating 1,200, that's 24 cups of rice. There's no way I could eat fucking 24
No,
cups of rice in a
that'd be
day.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, who can eat? It's four cups per meal, right? There's
Yeah.
no way you could eat 4 cups of rice
Without
per
any
meal.
fats too, like just eating dry rice. Oh my God, that'd be horrible.
Yeah, so like I'll do like rice and some breakfast cereal, or rice and some gummy bears, or rice and a Gatorade, or rice and some orange juice, something like
Yeah.
that. On the high days, to get those calories down. And then we lower on the high carb days, we'll pull the proteins back down, because the carbs and the insulin are protein sparing. You don't really need a
Right.
lot of protein. So it's probably somewhere around a gram of protein per pound of body weight, and maybe even a little less than a gram. On the medium and low days, it's like around a gram and a quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, Justin doesn't run a lot of protein.
Yeah. My coach is Blue Taylor. He's very
Oh
old
yeah, I'm
school.
familiar with Blue.
Yeah, very, very old school. So he likes the whole 10 ounces of meat per meal type thing. I'm like,
Holy
dude,
shit. Yeah, no, I do like
I
half
can't
that.
do this. This is crazy. There's just it also just rips a hole in your pocket too. You're spending, $400 at Costco every other week. It's like, I don't know, man.
Well, when you think about it, and this is the argument I make to people, they're like, shouldn't I be eating more protein? And I'm like, there's only so much muscle protein synthesis you can generate in a
Right.
day, and any excess protein that you eat, your body's just likely going to convert it to fucking carbohydrates anyway,
Right. Yeah.
through
Yeah.
gluconeogenesis. I mean, so you're just eating really expensive carbs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and whenever I have a coach, I follow whatever they tell me to do. It's just like part of my philosophy. I'm kind of diehard in that sense where you don't know if it works unless you go 100%. And then
Oh
you
yeah, I mean, if
yeah,
I don't counter, I'll ask questions, but
right,
if my
right,
coach wants me to do something, I'm going to do it.
right. And so I might as well explore. So I mean, I've done that for a while, and it got to the point where I was just like, dude, I'm getting acid reflux. I'm 25 years old. I don't want to, be putting down this much meat. I don't think I need it. Realistically, I just like to increase carbs, and we'll worry about it then. Like, it's just, and there's been no changes to my physique. I will say having higher protein than 1 gram per pound of body weight, I think like that's such a popular thing to say now. That's what people kind of general population sticks to. I think for whatever reason, there is some mechanism behind having abundances of protein, even if it is just 1.5 grams per pound. I've seen effects with that, but past that, it's like I don't think there's, like Fuad Abiad's talked about like how Chad had him eating like 12 ounces per meal. I'm like, dude, what? Like that's crazy. Like that's so much food. Like that's just protein just sitting in your gut.
Yeah, I used to talk to Chad some back in the day, when he had his message board up. He used to post on there frequently, but he was a 2 grams per pound of body weight protein guy.
Yeah.
That was pretty. I mean, that was the dogma in the early 2000s, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, at this point in my life, I'm almost 50 years old. Digestion is hard enough as is. I'm going to try to get away with the least amount of protein that I mean, I'm still eating over 300 grams of protein a
Right.
day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and even the residual amino acids you're getting from your carbohydrates at that point, like you're eating enough amino acids throughout the day already. So if you get, a couple tryptophan molecules and, the proline from different things, like you're going to get a sufficient array of any leftover essential amino acids that you didn't get through meat already. So it's like whatever.
I mean, when you do the math on it, 1 pound is 453 grams. So I mean, how much muscle protein? And muscle's not even all. It's mostly water and carbs anyway.
Right. There's triglycerides in there too.
Yeah, there's triglycerides in there too. So I mean, really, how much muscle protein synthesis can you stimulate in a day? I mean, I know there's protein turnover and there's other things that are going on, right? But still, I mean, how much do you really need?
Yeah, I just think, and when people, the thing is too, I think a lot of coaches even get stuck up in this mindset where it's like, this coach did this and they have this client, so that's the right way. And I think it's really important for people to like look at those individuals as like exceptions and not the standard. Like the standard is much different from these like wild exceptionary, like these people are literally the best of the best of the best. Like they're complete exceptions to whatever. Like you could probably throw a fucking diet that your grandma made at these individuals and they're going to grow and they're going to look amazing on stage. But like treating them as like, that's the standard, dude, your 180-pound body is not going to need what Jay Cutler needed back in, 2000, whatever. So
I do think there is an effect on. I can get behind the effect on body composition with eating more protein.
yeah,
because
100%.
I mean, when you look at how protein is metabolized, it's pretty. I mean, I'm not saying that it can't be stored as fat, but it's damn near impossible for protein. If you look at the various steps it has to go through to be converted into adipose tissue, it's almost fucking impossible to turn protein into fat.
Yeah, and just the process alone of making it a usable carbohydrate is still like so energetically demanding. You're burning.
Yeah, I think you lose like a third of it, right?
Yeah. It's like, so I mean, it's a great tool to use in a prep for sure, because you can leverage a little bit more protein, and then you're basically reducing calories by maybe lowering carbohydrates, increasing protein. But it's still like in the off season, especially, it's like I wouldn't want to push that past.
Yeah, I will pull protein up for people on contest prep.
Mm-hmm.
As we get deeper in contest prep, mainly just for keeping them satiated, man, keep them from cheating and keep them feeling full. So I mean,
post show too is a really, like, I'll go really high on protein post show, because that just like, no one's going to say no to like a 12-ounce steak, and it's going to make them feel full and satiated and happy. So
I do the exact opposite, man. I push the carbs hard after a show. Yeah,
I do too. But I try to, you can, especially for me, when I'm in a prep, I'm not hungry at all. Like, I don't suffer with hunger. It's just right after where it's like almost unbearable. Like I want food so bad. And so I know, I think Justin's protocol is basically just like do high days consecutively for like 2 weeks or something, right after a show.
Yeah, after the show, you push the carbs and the insulin really high.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it with some people, though. You got to be careful with, the people that tend to carry a lot of water, you got to be really careful with that. I've had people blow up really quickly, so I'll have them check in with me every couple days. I had a guy put on just a ton of water. Some people are super sensitive when running that type of protocol, but then other people just fill out. Like me, I'll stay dry and fill. I was running 1,500 grams of carbs every day for week and a half on straight, running some insulin, and I put on 20 pounds.
Are you just running Lantus at that point, or?
Yeah, Lantus. Well, I'll run Lantus. I run Lantus and Humalog.
It's good. Super anabolic.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't tell people that, but I'll do both.
I mean, then again, it's like that's probably the last thing you dipped into during prep, and so it's going into the off season. It's probably advantageous to leverage that as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use any insulin on prep. I find that I'll start going hypo, so I don't even on my high days, I don't need it on prep when I get towards the end. But when you're shoving all those carbs in the off season, mainly the Lantus, I just run as a prophylactic measure. I'm probably, everybody in my family's diabetic, so I don't know. I might be on my way there, but I just don't. As you age, this is just my theory, and I don't know that I don't have any evidence to this, but it's just anecdotal information. I feel like that as you get older, your insulin production comes down. Certainly insulin sensitivity is not as good. So I see, like, with older guys, if you're going to be shoving in a lot of food, that you need some help with it. It seems to be the limiting fact. I'll see a lot of guys older guys, it's funny. I'll see the older guys seem to run more anabolics. They'll
Yeah.
I'll see some guys like in their 50s and 60s run crazy doses and they're not growing. And I don't think it's the anabolic load that's the issue. It's that the glucose sensitivity isn't, or insulin sensitivity is not there, and then the glucose uptake is not there either. So you'll some insulin paired with berberine and maybe metformin, something like that, to get the insulin sensitivity high. And I just don't think older guys make enough insulin to keep up with the food intake.
Yeah. No, I think that's in part true. I think one thing that could help those individuals is like you couple peptides like MOTS-C and then like NAD plus and an NMN, because that would in theory help like mitochondrial function and cellular health at a certain foundational level. One of the interesting pieces of research I've been kind of diving into is like anabolic resistance in older people. And it seems like pretty clearly that you get like ribosomal dysfunction, like your ribosomes stop producing proteins. They start misfolding proteins more often. So you don't actually accrete as much protein, even though you're doing the same stimulus. And so, yeah, they might need more signaling from insulin and different pathways as well. It's weird how that works. Their limbs shrink first and then you get that palumboism going on.
Yeah, they get the big gut and the small legs usually is what happens, and then the arms start to go.
Yeah. Have you used any like GLP-1 agonists or anything like that?
No, I haven't messed with any of them.
Okay. Have you had any clients use them?
Yeah, I've had some clients that they get prescribed.
Would they just say anything about them? Interesting.
I mean, they work like magic, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Our clinic has it, and they sent me some samples. I don't have a reason to use it. I'm in my off season, so I don't need to use it. But it seems interesting to me that, again, I'm a big proponent in suffering, and so from my understanding, it just slows gastric motility. It changes the hypothalamus's interactions with the gut-brain axis and a couple other things. It stops hunger. But I feel like when you're hungry, it's more of like I don't know about you, but like when there's food in front of me, if I'm really hungry, even if I'm not like super hungry, I'm going to want to eat it. It just seems like it wouldn't be effective psychologically, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it seems like semaglutide has a strong appetite suppression to it. I've had some people that have struggled with appetite and just can't control themselves, and then they get on semaglutide and they even metformin. I know it's not a GLP-1, but metformin has some appetite suppression as well. It seems to sensitize people to resensitize to leptin and affects leptin sensitivity and production in some way. But I've noticed that helps people too that have a hard time losing weight.
Yeah. What's the most exotic compound you used?
For me, I just use basic shit, dude.
I figured.
I don't use anything complex. I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know a ton about peptides and SARMs. I've never touched a SARM in my life.
Yeah.
I just use shit that works.
Right. Well, I mean, SARMs are kind of dumb in my personal opinion. It's like they're still going to suppress your HPTA. They're still going to cause deleterious effects to your organ systems, and they're also like twice the expense of a fucking Anavar tab. Like,
Anavar is a SARM. That's what people don't realize. It's
right, and it's metabolized by the kidneys, so you're not getting like liver outcomes that aren't favorable. And it's just like I don't know. It's weird. It's just like all these SARM goblins. And then I'm surrounded by this. Some of the gyms I go to here, like Absolute Recomp. Dude, it's everywhere. You got kids walking up with cystic acne up and down their faces and backs, and they're like, "What do you know about like RAD 140 and LGD?" And I'm like, "Dude, just take Anavar if you want."
It seems like you get all of the negative effects and none of the positive ones.
Right. Yeah.
Why would I? When I do the cost versus benefit analysis on something like that, why would I want to take something that's going to cause me to get all the negative side effects of taking a steroidal SARM without the benefits of it?
Right. And it's twice the price. Like, it's ridiculous. Like a bottle of 30 days of RAD 140 is like $65. And you can get just some places you can get Anavar, whether it's real or not, I don't know. But, for pretty much cheaper or at that price, it's like, it's going to work way better, like way more targeted.
Let's get a bottle test.
Yeah. Like literally, dude, I tell that all the time. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm like, listen, You can spend $25. We can manage this thing right. You can prevent any kind of deleterious outcomes with organ health. You literally just go at 250 milligrams to start, see how you react. And that's going to work better than the longest course ever of SARMs taken. Like, you could have the most complex series of peptides and SARMs, but 250 milligrams a test to start out with will give you more benefit than anything would. Like, you could spend copious amounts of money fucking around, but if you just use the test and spend $60 for a couple syringes and a vial, you're going to be good. Like, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, I always the whole first cycle thing, it always perplexes me. Like, people talk about trying, with an oral. I get that people are afraid of a needle,
Yeah,
or whatever, but I'm like, the base of any cycle is going to be testosterone forever.
right.
So why not start off with that one and see how it goes?
Right. I will say there's like differences depending on what that person's doing. Like, if they're a natural athlete competing in a tested federation, then maybe an oral might be advantageous.
Oh
Or
yeah, well, that's a different situation.
right. Or if they're maybe they're wanting to experiment and they do want to see, like, okay, is this a path I want to take? Anavar for 8 weeks isn't going to suppress your natural production. Like, it's just not, especially if you take it at a moderate to low dose. You're still going to be producing testosterone, and that's thrown on top as a DHT derivative. I see some effect there as like a trial run, but then after that, it's like, all right, let's just, because we're at that point, you're then just going to slowly start decreasing your own functional HPTA, and you might as well just run tests. Like, it's gonna.
Yeah, I think I saw I saw a study somewhere. I think it was 8-week run of Anavar at something like 20 or 30 milligrams. Only suppresses HTPA about 30%.
Yeah, it's not much. You can bounce back from that really quick.
Yeah, and it clears your system really quick. It's not like the metabolites are going to be hanging around for a long time. I mean, I started off on orals when I was younger. I don't even think I took my first shot of testosterone until my late 20s.
Wow. Were you a D-ball only warrior?
Oh yeah, back then, man, that was what we did. D-ball and Anadrol.
Hell yeah.
That's what we did. And the only thing D-ball did for me is made my blood pressure go through the roof and grow titties.
That's so funny.
I got the worst case of gyno ever from D-ball. D-ball is a funny one, man. It's like it some people it works really well for, but I'm telling you, like, the people that get the nasty side effects, it's the one that I seem to see the most problems, especially gyno.
Yeah.
I think I think if you're prone to gyno, the conversion to methyl estradiol is just asking for it, man.
Right. And a lot of dudes don't know how to manage that. So they're taking like an AI, thinking like, okay, that'll block it, and it's like, no, dude, you're gonna need to take a SERM because you need to stop that bitch from going straight to the receptor. And it's funny because like D-ball kickstarts to cycles are still a thing, which I at least for me, I think is like completely phased out. I would never do that.
It's idiotic.
Yeah, it's just wait till use one compound or use like 2 or 3. Wait till they have effect in your blood serum, and then assess from there like what you need. But it's probably still not going to be D-ball,
Yeah, if I were going to throw an oral in, it would be the tail end of a cycle when you're stuck.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've to be honest, I've only ever used D-ball once, and it was because my friend had some leftover ones, and I just took them for like a week, and I hated it. Like, I literally went from having a nice jawline to having like a marshmallow face within 2 to 3 days. It was like, what the hell?
Oh, I can always spot the dudes that are on D-ball, man. They're big, bloated, red, and got a bunch of back knee.
Yep, exactly, man. It's funny.
I'm like, you are on D-ball, my friend. I can see it.
It's funny. It's
I
like
mean,
a telltale sign.
Some people swear by it. I saw Dorian Yates in an interview recently say that it was his favorite steroid. So
I don't know, man. I get maybe the euphoria. I knew a guy who he microdosed it for 3 years every single day at 2.5 to 5 milligrams a day. And I was like, I want to see what your health looked like. His skin was just like that liver king color, like that red purplish hue.
The red.
Man, I don't know about this, dude. I'm having a concern that your liver might be crying for help and your blood pressure might be killing your kidneys at the moment.
Well, when I think about it, I go back to the whole SARM argument again. If I'm going to take something, I do the cost benefit analysis on it.
Right.
I want to take the thing that's going to give me the best bang for the buck, the least amount of side effects with maximizing the effects that I'm trying to leverage at that point in time. And if I'm in the off season, it really, my only goal is honestly is muscle, stimulating muscle protein synthesis. So why wouldn't I use something that's more side effect free and go with something like Primobolan or something like that? You know, I don't know. I just don't understand why you would use something that is loaded with more side effects. So, you know, if I'm going to roll the dice on something risky, or it better offer a unique benefit, you know, so I can see the compelling argument for taking Tren because it does some really unique, interesting things that you can't really do with any. It's really the only compound that does it.
Right. Yeah, there's literally nothing that can compare. What do you think would be like because I have a couple things I use in my mind, but for you, like a budget cycle for someone who is, you know, first of all, you should get your finances in order, but let's say you wanted to run a cycle and you didn't have a ton of cash.
I mean, just testosterone.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Just run some fucking test.
Yeah.
You know, test and an AI.
Yeah.
You know, and if you wanted to throw something in with it, you know, pick an anabolic that agrees with you.
Yeah.
You know, nandrolone, if you want to put on size. I mean, I don't know who can't grow on test in MPP. Or DECA.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, to me, I don't know, I've way back, dude, I was following Vigorous Steve. He's really what got me into this. So like when I was in the military, due to concussive blasts, I had like a pituitary disorder because of that. And so I needed TRT. I competed naturally without it, but then right after I won my pro card, I was like, this is enough, because like my test levels year round were like 200 nanograms per deciliter.
Yeah, that's too low for your age.
Yeah, right? And that was when I was like 20 years old, right? So I got on TRT, and that is when I started really becoming like a autodidact and just like researching, eating like every kind of bit of information I could. I got my degree in science nutrition. I started trying to get my another degree in biochemistry. I was like, yeah, fuck that. That's really complicated shit. Just like reading about what I like to read and going from there. But then I found Vigorous Steve, and like I was following him back when he was just like a Facebook page. Like he had like a private Facebook page. You could join it for a couple bucks a month. He'd write articles, he'd ask questions, he'd respond. And he kind of like led me onto the bioidentical cycle of like test, insulin, growth hormone, and IGF-1.
Yeah.
And that's really what like proliferated a lot of my progress, was like following that kind of scheme and format. It's cheap, it's effective, minus the growth hormone and IGF-1 arguably, but like insulin, you can go to Walmart and buy that shit realistically if you wanted to. And it's effective, you know, it does the job.
Yeah, I mean, if I were just going to run a simple cycle, I didn't even consider GH, because that's definitely not a budget cycle. But if I honestly, you know, like my guys that are just lifestyle people, it's test GH and insulin. That's what I tell them to run. You're hitting a couple different pathways there.
It's like the golden trifecta. It's like the big main three.
Yep. Yeah. And people get scared too to run the other. It's funny how they, you know, they would rather run a heavier androgen. You can run less androgens if you run all three of them.
Right.
And honestly, I think you can, and I've seen people do it before, run a little bit of Lantus, a couple of units of like 2 units of HGH, and just, you know, 250, 300 milligrams of test, and get nice progress out of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like when people consider, it's like, I try to like explain the levels of severity of things. Like a bottle of aspirin is more deleterious to your health than a bottle of any androgen, and compared to insulin, that's even less deleterious to your health. So if you took a whole bottle of aspirin, you're going to probably fucking die. If you took a whole bottle of DBOL, you're just probably going to have a good day or something. Who knows? If you inject a whole pen of insulin, you might go into a coma, but you're going to wake up an hour or two later. Like it's the LD50 on insulin is like crazy. The lethal dose is like thousands and thousands of IUs of insulin requirement to actually kill yourself. And
I posted a video about this, man. I had a video up. I found the study where they went through and looked at thousands of cases of people that tried to commit suicide with insulin. And there were some people that took ridiculous doses. There was a guy that took 10,000 units of Lantus and didn't die.
That's fucking nuts, man. But he felt crash, but
yeah, well, they said that, you know, they said they had to have him on a glucose IV for like a month afterwards, but it was yeah, I'll see if I can find it. But I have the video up on my YouTube channel. There was all these crazy literally somebody taking a whole pen of Humalog and living
Yeah.
from, or multiple pens of Humalog and living
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah. I had
And
one,
I'm not suggesting folks that you go
no,
out and do that
no.
and test it out, but you're right, the LD50 on it is crazy high.
Yeah, I had one client, he was relatively new to the game, and when I send clients protocols, I write everything. Like I'll take a screenshot of a syringe from a website, and then I'll write on it, like just so I'm extra clear, like how far I want the syringe to go or whatnot. And in his case, he saw that, but he didn't actually look at it. So he read 4 IUs and thought he would go to the 40 on
The
an
40
insulin
people
syringe.
do that all the
Yep.
fucking time, man.
And he's like, dude, I feel so weird. What's going on? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, we're only using 4 IUs. You have like 100 grams of carbs around this. Like, there should be no issues. And lo and behold, I asked him to send me a picture. It was like, yep, 40 IUs of insulin. But he never passed out, never had any, like, just said he felt a little funky. Like, that was it.
I make people get a glucose meter. I won't even let them fuck with insulin unless they have a glucose meter.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
go check that. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. How
Absolutely.
can people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about coaching or
Yeah.
consulting?
Yeah. So you can find me on bloodbuiltcoaching.com. I have a bunch of blogs, informational articles there, as well on Instagram at Kolton_red. I post a lot of educational reels and content. So it's more fast form content, but I'm also trying to appeal to more of a general population audience, but also provide education for bodybuilding and safer use modules as well. And then you can find me on YouTube, Kolton Lucas, just my name. I have a YouTube channel. It's not super educational. There is educational videos, but it's more lifestyle vlogging type of stuff, walking you through the day by day of my protocols and what I'm doing to make progress and become the first IFBB pro with cerebral palsy. So
That's awesome, man. Well,
yeah,
we'll definitely do this again. I want to have you back on again, man.
absolutely, dude. Anytime.
All right. Thank you for being on.
All right, Big Paul. Thanks, man.
All right. Take care.